Yeah, well, everyone. Welcome once more to Radio Voice of Oslo. Once more, with me is Andrew and Mado. Today we are going to talk about such a heavy topic on racism. Racism is an issue in our society today, both abroad and even from wherever we are staying. It's an issue that is, I don't know whether there's anyone who is going to come with a solution to it, but we can see how to defeat racism. So that is why with me I have Andrew Ratanya and Magdalene, who is going to take us through this. Andrew will introduce himself, but he has written a book on touching on racism. That is why I have him today here to do that discussion. And two other important topics that we're going to handle is the Black Lives Matter and then the current US election. So there's a way we are going to be relating all those things. Andrew, welcome, and kindly tell us a little bit about yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. To the viewers, my name is Andrew Ratanya Mukaria. I live in Norway, and I came to Norway in the year 2007 to do my master's degree, and I've been in Norway since then. In the same institution that I started my master's degree at MF, Norwegian School of Theology. That's where also I did my PhD, and then finished my PhD in 2018. And I've been teaching there since then. I am a family man with one daughter and son. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you tell us also a little bit about your background and probably why did you write that book and what was the reason behind it? Thank you.
Yes, my background in particular is in theology. I'm a theologian, my academic background, but I'm also, I have some biases in human rights. What made me write that book is because in studies on missiology, while studying missiology and teaching missiology, I interact with some issues that needs to be addressed from a particular perspective, especially exploring mission trajectories and mission perspective, and especially when you come to thinking about the concept of the what is referred as civilizing mission and the 17th century mission that was more cross-cultural. But however, what inspired me to write the book is one article which was written by my former supervisor in PhD and still a professor at MF, Roa Footland, that's trying to unearth some of the issues pertaining mission activities in Zimbabwe. And in that article, it looks mostly on the positive aspect of what Christian mission did in Africa. And that is, which we all know, there were some positive elements from Christian mission, especially building schools, churches, and hospitals, and bringing some growth and development. But as well, the elephant in the room, which is overlooked, is the idea of what they resist, what their racist activities that took place in the entire process. How can we look onto this? And the book is particularly because it's going to reflect on the history, especially this time the world is thinking about cohesion and integration, looking on the past to reflect on the future. So the book looks on the activities of the mission, their reflection on the past, inspired by their context that was generally to say pure white, predominantly white, and which was inspired by some of the biblical or religious aspect of one race superiority, the idea of West have to civilize the world, and then science of the day from Darwinism to eugenesis and other kind of anthropology that happened that time. So I look overall on those activities that took place from the missionaries, especially while instilling some values to the indigenous people of the context that they went, the language they used, and the actions, especially in terms of educations and other matters. So the book looks onto these activities in general, and then particularly it comes to a conclusion, how do these things affect us today, especially in trying to understand the one that we live in, and looking now Africa is maybe 60% Christian, sub-Saharan, which is 80% Christian. How do they affect us today? So I try to look on the effect where particularly I see that the missionary activities of then, especially the anthropological activities, which were reducing to some extent, have created what really were called the dependency syndromes, whereby you think, you see the Africa, we feel like we are still held in shackles. We can't move. We are still looking onto the West to come and save and help us because of that white saviors mentality. And then we are also limited because the trajectories and the images that still are coming from Africa are projected of poverty, limitations, kids with flies all over their eyes and mouths. It was the same perspective that was used then, and it gives one single narrative of poverty and limitations. So you see, these images still perpetuate all onto the feeling that Africans or Black people are less. Then I try to look on how the images of white Jesus maybe have reduced that as well, because we still think that our white man is the only one who can save us, and Black man cannot save himself. So we're still expecting that white savior to come and redeem us. And then I look to this one also as a limitation to reverse mission, because the one today is calling on the Africa and Asia, where the church is growing, to come and do mission in Europe. But how can we do mission in Europe when we are limited, when the mission that went to Africa was of power, but for us is of limitations? The people who are coming here, some are migrants who cross through the boats to Europe. Some of us came here as students. We are limited in power. As much as we can claim we have the Holy Spirit power, also there is that missionary power which was of the financial and the socio-political and the cultural power, which we have been limited onto that. So that book is not to criticize the West as such, but to call each one of us to act upon addressing this evil, which is called racism. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's good to have researchers on board.
Wow.
You know, when you have a researcher and we have a researcher, Magdalene, then you're going to handle this. Magdalene, just say hi to people as you introduce us to racism, what racism is, and why we are talking about racism. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity to have this kind of racism. Is a very sensitive topic to deal with, and especially when it comes to people of color like us talking about it. And sometimes I would say racism, I came to realize that we are talking more about it because we are being affected, because racism mostly is about color. It's about color. It's about ethnicity. And I realized too during my research is that it is now, it's a modern concept which has come also with the form of capitalism. That is what it has carried more during this period or these modern times. But mostly in the old times, they were talking mostly, it is about color. And then and that superiority complex about a particular group of persons, which also relates with capitalism. It also relates with capitalism because I have the power and I know that I can hire you, that you don't have this, or you are on or with a particular race, that I'm able to control you. So I think racism has a very thin line in the modern times to talk about than the old times. I don't want to go now to make the differentiation as we are going to be talking alongside. I think we'll reach the point where we'll be able to differentiate the modern times and the traditional times of racism. But then racism is all about the color and ethnicity or ethnicity and capitalism being involved to show superiority complex over another group of persons. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Andrew, you'll add on that if you have something, but you'll also be starting on this section of the difference between traditional racism and modern racism. Thank you.
I agree with Magdalene, the way she has said racism is about color. But for me, sometimes I look race as a fallacy or something which really is stupidity. Sorry to say that. Because what is race per se? If you try to look into a group of people called European, or a group of people called Asian, or people called Africans, we have a lot of diversities within ourselves. So for me, I think I agree with individuals, social scientists and biological sciences who have said there's nothing like race as such. I agree to them because race cannot be justified biologically or cannot be justified by any other means apart from socially being constructed and also being a political tool. And that's why I agree with Magdalene when she says is about capitalism. And indeed, when you look, racism became a factor or grew when the Europeans started moving to other territories, especially in conquest, and to have materials for their own industrialization. So the first wave of imperialism, which happened like 15th century, when the Portuguese started going to South America and Africa, they met the people who existed there, then coupled with the myths that they had, because like the way we think about aliens in the sky, that's what they thought some other peoples existed who have maybe long tails, and one writer had written they have big feet like those of elephants. So when they went and met those peoples with those stereotypes in their mind, they started to subjugate them. By subjugation, they started using now for their own benefit. So they again created what is called us versus them in using these people for their own empowerment. And they created that race different to create some people who will be in control, so who will be in power, and those who to be in controlled were put in the lower category. And that's how the things went. And then, as I said earlier, the science came into play. Especially we have some people like Frederick Farrell, who in 17th century said like there are three categories of people. He called one savages, and the others semi-civilized, and the others civilized. And in that category, savages were put to be people of Africa and India, and then semi-civilized were put people of China, and then the civilized were put in category the European. So they used that mentality to subjugate and subdue others for their own benefit. Hence the meaning of the race came. But if you look clearly, racism is what then? It is social construct with more of a political and capitalistic, like Magdalene said, to abuse and use for their own purposes.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. So Darwan, thank you for that contribution. So Magdalene, I'll invite you to work on that, the difference between the traditional and modern racism, as you also take on the effects that it has brought into our society. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank Andrew. He made a very, very pertinent point. That's what is going to help me now to make this. He called it social constructs. Because if those social constructs, we talk about imperialism, and then it had to come with segregation and trying to differentiate, because you cannot differentiate between race and ethnicity. It has a very thin line. Because those from the same race, and they think they come from the same ethnic group or superior, I would say, because of that class, that social construct, which Andrew said, that class of the civilized, the uncivilized, or the developed, the underdeveloped. I don't know who were the people that they were constructing those or those stratas, how those stratas were being made in order to distinguish people who are the best. So now the the social construct has come in a different way during our modern times. That's why I talked about the capitalism, which is the major in our modern times. In the old times, mostly there were those rich farmers, even though it was capitalism, there was those rich farmers that they thought they are bourgeois, they are bourgeoisie, they have, or they come from this kindred, they're the ones that they control the machines and whatever. And then just to show their power, it wasn't too much on their color, just to because even some who they were white, they also took them as slaves or whatever to work in their farms. It was so much pronounced with the black man, or I'll say with those who were from Africa, because they were stronger. And the others that they took them from across the Atlantic, some did not survive, but they realized that a black man was able to survive. So it means this did not just come because of their color that they survived. They were strong naturally. That they were able to the harsh condition, no matter the harsh conditions that were being given to them, they were able to resist and stay. So to exercise that, they went for them more and took them than the others who were there. So that is the traditional racism, which was, so the modern one now has come, which the people that they have the power, the capitalists, they start to think that it is not only about, they start to feel class stratification. So it is now going to even those who are their color are not really dark, they are not black colors, they might be coming from Malaysia or some other places that they are lighter than us, but they feel that they are higher than them. So that is a new kind of racism, the modern kind of racism. And that's why racism and ethnicity, you don't come from the ethnic group of those that they are Europeans. You might be looking light skin or white in your skin, but you don't come from that class. So they will still segregate you and discriminate you for that. I even realized that another modern kind of racism, it happens among us who are even Africans, who have the black color. That's why there's a new term called colorism, which those whom they are lighter in skin, they can be accepted maybe in an office faster than someone that is really, really dark like me. That's a modern kind of racism that I realized in this our century. Because of time, maybe I'll add again when you come back. Maybe Andrew has something to add on that, on this differentiation.
Yeah. Yeah, he can talk about it, but as
okay,
you
but
do that, Andrew, you'll do on the effects.
Yes.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Because you needed to add on that. Yeah.
The effect on this, to be candid, I want to look at my own self and then I speak. The effect on this, it can make you to withdraw, not knowing who you are. You will not have this self-confidence. No matter, to some people, no matter how they have studied right up to a PhD level, if they know that mostly they have been some kind of racism that has been labeled on them, be it among the friends in school, It's a scar. It's a kind of scar that will remain in you, that somebody needs to talk to you in order to wipe it off. Sometimes it can depress people for long, and their real self, as I said, will not come out. That's to portray what they are able to contribute in that society will be buried unless they tell you, or unless you were following up that person, and then you know that that's not exactly what this person was supposed to perform. Why? Because there are some people where they have been discriminated, or the term, I would say, racism being labeled on them. Then they have left that particular area and then gone back to people that recognize them for who they are, and then they start to perform excellently well. So which means that inferiority complex, that boost, it is showing that they can kill, the effect of it is that they can kill the talent and the God-given gift of somebody, that it cannot be seen. Those are some of the effects. Somebody like myself, I'm an outspoken person, but then if I realize that there are some people who think, and then again, because I'm a Christian, there are some people who think that they are superior than me. What I do, because I know who I am, what God has made me to be, I know that I'm in the superior class with God, because I'm born in His image. I know that consciously. But when I'm around people who think that they have superior blood more than you, and then because of their ignorance, I say they are, I call it ignorance, I stay quiet. It is not because I feel, I have a friend that will say, but Mado, why is it that they did this to you? Why is it that you do not? She wants to fight for me. She wants, I'm telling you, in my job site. One is because our temperaments are different, but then somebody that knows me will know that that is not who I am. I'm a loud person.
Thank you.
You know,
yeah,
so it can bury someone's personality. That's the truth. Yes, it can bury your God-given talent. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for bringing and highlighting that one. So I hope someone who is listening to us and has been exposing people to racism and everything and killing people's esteem is listening. There, you know, it's no need of calling someone a nigger. It's not there's no need of calling someone a Pakis. There's no need of identifying, you know, or segregating someone because of their color or from where they are. You know, if someone has done well, it's better to appreciate them despite of their color and their background. Thank you for that one. We are running out of time, and I will bring Andrew back to bring us on how to deal with racism. Thank you.
Before I say how to deal with racism, I have to add literal to what Mando said, which she has said, very important point, the ones you have repeated as well. Yeah. In true sense, the greatest effect of racism is psychological effects. It reduces people, because racism is there to reduce you from the human status to less human being. So whoever is doing that, they know that they are limiting what was created by the image of God, which is very wrong. And to a great extent as well, another effect of racism, especially like the societies we live, if we look on all the societies that have earned overt racism, especially we see the USA, we see South Africa, is it limits the social cohesion of the people. People live with fear against each other. So a society like the one we are in, Norway and other kind of part of Africa and Europe, if you want to bring the people together, is learn to appreciate the values which are inbuilt to each and particular people as different as they are, then bring them together for social harmony and social cohesion. So the part that you ask me about what should we do now to address the issues of racism, in my opinion, I think racism, as we have seen it, is more of a social construct and something which has been constructed through families, through education, which has neglected to bring the values embedded in other people. I think the way to undo a social construct, which may take long period, is through the same strategies, through education, through bringing values that address racism as it is. First, for it to happen, people have to accept that there is a problem in our midst, and then view racism as a sin and as evil. So unless we view racism as a sin and evil, then you will not be able to address it. As long as some people view their race as superior than other races, as long as some people haven't acknowledged that we are all created in the image of God, as long as some individuals haven't acknowledged that human knowledge is equal to all human beings, regardless of the color, regardless of the place where they were born, and what limits us is resources, not the colors of our skin, then you will not be able to make any progress. So much as we'll have education, there must be that things of acceptance. We accept that we have a problem in our midst. When we accept it, then we'll be able to speak it and then change some of the system which have held others captive. If is education that is bringing social prejudices, maybe feeling that there is no contribution from the people who are Black or the people of other region because the books and the history does not teach it, then we put it in history book to see that humanity, Blacks are the shadows of the humanity. That's where all the human beings were born. And by very means, civilization started in Africa, for example. So when we look at that, then we have to question, who are the initiators of this civilization if it started in Africa? It must have been Black people. Then we put this element in history so that others will not be left that when my son questioned me, did we contribute anything? Then when others ask, he will read it in the book, and then you'll be able to shape his mind and his thoughts that I'm strong, I'm capable, I'm able to do it. So that psychological mentality is eroded. Then we have to build the system that brings equality and values to all people. So where we have segregations, I may quote where it has been extent of segregations like we are against South Africa and USA, go to these areas. And when we come like case of Norway here, let's see that there's equality also in terms of job, in terms of settlement. Norway has done much, but they can still go far in appreciating other peoples who are immigrants and not viewing them as just inventory, who have come to take our jobs, who have no value, and who have to take other jobs which are left by us. So you start appreciating what values do these people have. And by that means, then you'll be able to address the issues of racism. But this might be a fallacy as well, as I said, because it will not go easily. Not everybody will learn to accept, but that will be a way forward towards addressing this vice and this issue.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As we go next, Mado, you can add on that if you have something, but then we are going to the Black Lives Matters, you know, that thing that really swept everyone. And yeah, it's a major thing that is going on right now. So take on that one, Mado, and is there any correlation between Black Lives Matters and racism? And what do you guys have to say? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I want to add a bit which will relate with the Black Lives Matter. This particular effect of racism, I want to thank Andrew for the fact of the fact that we have to accept that there is racism. If you don't accept it, that there is, and you want to play cool, that I want you to really show the proof that I was having a racist attitude. Because why? It's a denier. You want to escape. You want to escape out of it, and which means hiddenly you will be there and you will keep doing it. So let's look at xenophobia, which is happening. It is that fact that, as Andrew said, if you are thinking that an invader is coming to take your job, that's what is happening in South Africa. That we heard about killings and things like that. Those are the an attitude, the attitude of a racist. And then let's go to the Black Lives Matter. It didn't just come like with the click of the finger that Black Lives Matter. Is because that superiority, that supremacy has been there, and then those that they have it, that they think they are superior, they have not been able to accept it. So they still have that that high complex, that I'll put it in quotes, they call it that is a blue blood. Those that we are of the blue blood, the supreme blood, and we are of this high class of we come from this ethnic group. And then you see somebody that is not of that ethnic group to you, you think the lives, it doesn't matter. Why do they even live? You think they should not even live. People that should live longer, they should be people that they come from the same class as us. So a particular a race or ethnic group, which is the blacks in the USA, have been witnessing this. I think it is not something that is now. Since that there was slavery, let's say 100 years or how many years. So the children, they grow up, they are still seeing the same thing happening. They just know who they are. As I said, they just know that with us, this is our class. This is where we belong. You give birth to your own child, your child grows up and knows that you don't belong to this class. The race, your race is black, it means you are of the lower class. So I don't know how it happened. Me, as I would say, as a Christian, I did not support the Black Lives Matter. Why? Because some people took advantage. I don't want to say it and to go so deep as a Christian, because this program is covering everybody, the Christians and non-Christians and things like that. So some group of people took an advantage to abuse our Christian life. That's the way I looked at it. And they started thinking that Black Lives Matter. God doesn't look at color. All of us, that whether you are a Christian or you are not a Christian, if your own God looks at color or black lives, then that is not a God that I'll say people should cherish, because all lives matter. All lives matter, whether they are blacks, whether they are green or blue or red. They are the image. I'll still say the image. They were made by the image of God. All lives matter. I don't want to rub other color to say that their lives don't matter. That's why I'm bringing it. I don't want to make a racist speech here, which me, I condemn it.
Thank you.
I condemn that much of Black Lives Matter. They should say all lives matter. The best thing is for people to identify and accept that racism is existing, or that you should not look at another race as if they are of the lower class. Thank you.
Thank you for that contribution. So I bring you, Andrew, in, and then you are gonna also comment on the current US election and maybe the possibility of it solving the issue of racism. So you comment on the Black Lives Matter and also US election, if it's gonna sort racism. Thank you.
One thing I will say on the Black Lives Matters, I agree with Mando, but disagree partly. And I agree all lives matters, but in addition, I don't deny that by saying Black Lives Matters, it does not mean that all life don't matters. I look at it from this perspective. It's like when the universal agreement that of human right was brought in space, it is said that all humans are born of equal rights and dignity. However, if you look, that in practice was in paper but not in the practice, because as we look today, especially when we read the history of USA, a black man is 3 times more likely to be shot by police than a white man. Then in a community, for example, where George Floyd died, you may meet that in the cell, the people who are there, the population of the blacks might be 20%, but the people who are in prison are 80% of the entire people in the prison. Then you meet that the people who are living in the ghettos and the place that have low life quality are the blacks over the whites. And then you meet again that a black man is more likely to have police being called for him or her. A black person is more likely to police be called for them or her for being black than a white person. So when you look onto all these things, you see that there is an element of direct prejudice against the black people. And then when you look onto all these parameters, you realize that this life of a particular individuals who are black is being targeted. And then their life has become valueless and worthless. So when the black people say Black Lives Matter, it's because of the experiences, it's because of the sufferings, it's because they are more likely to die. A black man is more likely to die for a crime they have committed or not committed than a white person. So the whites who felt that also Black Lives Matters joined the movement. However, it was the wrong time. And then the disadvantage is the politics and the situation of USA can be more polarized than other contexts. But this thing didn't say, is like when people say about valuing and raising women, trying to empower my daughter, for example, it does not mean that I will empower my son less. I'll still empower my son, but still empower my daughter. So that means the life of my daughter is of value as it is that of my son. So in this context, that's what Black Lives Matters mean. It means the lives of the black people is as of important to that of the white person, and then all lives matters. So that's what the Black Lives Matters in my perspective. But then what will the elections of Biden bring the change and differences? Well, even this one is a controversial issue, and especially because it has taken a religious tones as well as political tones, especially trying to figure who is more religious between Biden and between Trump. So that one is also very sensitive, but I'll speak my mind as a person. It does not adhere to any religious or my religious belief. For me, what I feel is that Trump may be a good person in some perspective, but his ideologies ignited something which was there in existence long time ago in USA, especially his tones, where he did not directly condemn the people who are supremacists or who are trying to bring white attitude back to the society. It ignited some racial attitude. Like we have seen several cases where some churches were banned, it did not condemn outright. We saw that boy who went with the gun shooting people, he did not condemn outright. Then in the debate that they had, when he was asked about those called white boys, what he said is stand still and stay still. He did not tell them to lay down their weapons. So when you see those attitudes, those utterances, in one or the other, they will ignite some people. And then, in my opinion, that's my opinion as well, it to some extent, Trump did not make American great, he made racism great again. So he brought a perspective that white privilege, white matters. And then when we look into his history, it is a person who in one or the other has contributed to a condescending attitude of blacks versus white, trying to create that dichotomy, especially when we read from the history, whereby he sponsored a total advert in a newspaper to condemn those 6 boys of the Central Park, that they should be hanged when for the crime that they are not committed, only because they have been put to jail for a crime they haven't done, and then he went again to publish that thing. But now for Biden, what I look on him, he has his weaknesses, he has his failures. But the difference is because for him, he will not come and say, I'm not racist. What he'll do is he will accept that he has some privileges as white person. He will accept that he is superior because he's born of white race. However, he is trying to go an extra mile to say that we white, we have to accept that we have a problem in our society. And this problem is a problem which is creating differences among the blacks and white. And then he is saying that we have to look on the parameters. How can we entail values which will bring education qualities that all will understand that people are equal, and then we change the education system and the system that has been subjecting one particular group of the other. I don't mean that you'll achieve it all, but probably you may achieve something literal that will be a leap and a step way forward. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Thank you. Medo, you add on that, and then maybe way forward with racism as you close on your part. So the US election, if it's gonna bridge the racism issues, and also like way forward with the racism. Thank you.
Okay. So well, I want to clarify that point when Andrew said maybe disagree a bit. I was not, because the whole thing with racism or Black Lives Matter boils around the politics behind that acceptability that I'm talking about. Because if people have not been able to identify what is the crux happening with race in America, then we will still be hovering around the point of Black Lives Matter, and then we are hanging it with politics being there's an interplay. There are some people who are behind. That's why I will say I have a man of God that will say that the men in the gloves. So there are people behind that they are perpetrating or pushing this thing to be seen in the limelight as if it is the blacks themselves that they have come up, whereas we have some other people behind the scene that we don't see them. So are we still playing the politics that this racism is going to reach a level, which is in what we are talking about, this US election now? So the politics behind it, we don't know, and that's why our opinions are very neutral. And that's why I become very neutral. I try to identify myself based on who I am, who God says everyone or every human being on earth is. That is where I'm trying to define it more than the politics or the interpolitical game which is behind. Yes, I want to look at Trump and Biden in my own perspective. Looking at both of them, it is still with what I studied in the school, religion and the public sphere. So which means you are playing to be a politician in that limelight based on the politics behind it. If you want to see very well, if Obama, for example, or other presidents, if you listen very well, when they want to say anything about religion or whatever, they will just say, God bless America. They will not say specifically the kind of God. Yeah, because the God bless America, it is all inclusive. It includes whether it is Buddhist God, Muslim God, the Christian God. So the difference now came when Trump started identifying a particular kind of God that he started openly say Jesus in it. With me, he had to sideline it. And then others now had to fight
you
him.
Have 1 minute to close
the racism it is all about politics. So the way forward is acceptability, for us to know that another human being should not be put down. And we have a unified body of a human race. We have only one race, that is the human race. That is what I should
Thank
preach.
you. Thank you. Your final words, Andrew. We have to finish within 1 minute. So your final word.
Yes. What I will say is this is a brilliant topic, and bringing these kinds of topic in this kind of forum, they are relevant. Because for me, I think is racism is not avoiding to speak it, like we see in especially in some contexts, and especially, sorry to say, in Norway, racism is an avoidant topic. But for me, I think it shouldn't be avoided. It should be spoken. People should come in an open forum and speak and share. Blacks share their experiences, white listening to them, and then white share their prejudices and their feeling, and then we'll be able to understand each other. And then by that, we can be able to work as one cohesive society. And then my last point again, the society is changing. The society is becoming more pluralistic. We have to accept the reality as it is. Today's society will not be the society of 1920. Today, the person living next to you is a black person, is a white person, is an Hindu, Mando, is a Muslim, and we have all to be friends and share one God together and pray one God together. Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you guys for sharing your views. And to someone else who has been listening to us, we send this information to you. If you call someone a nigger, if you call someone a Pakis because they are Pakistani, if you call someone, yellow because they're from India or China or something like that, please take your words back, because it's bringing some people down, but a strong personality will never be brought down. Thank you guys, and thank you our listeners and viewers. Till next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.